Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the Ongodd podcast. This is Collin Steele, your host, coming at you again with another new guest. I really hope you enjoyed the last podcast and episode with Vince Chaco. I thought he was awesome to talk to and really fun. This is another good friend of mine that I thought his experiences and our friendship would add a lot of value to yourselves. Like I said in the previous one, I'm going for kind of a young entrepreneurial, figuring it out. And I'm kind of at the end of that road where I've got enough experience that I felt like I could bring some value and entertainment to the table. And so Cameron and me have known each other for 20 plus years since Louisiana, which is where I'm from. We got a lot of crazy stories, man. And, I think there's going to be some good laughs, as well as all of his experiences and life experiences, as well as his career path that he's had. He's had a fairly successful career path in the construction industry, which is going to tie back into my career path as well, which is, legal and real estate and a few other entrepreneurial areas. So, I wanted to bring him on because I knew y'all would get some laughs from some of our history, and I knew we'd have good chemistry and just, good vibes with the conversation, as well as, anyone who's really, again, trying to find their way forward and might have an interest in the industry or any of his experiences. I really thought he could, give you some cool value, and y'all just enjoyed the conversation. So, again, Cameron Clark, my boy, known each other forever.
First grade,
bro. First grade. We both got held back in kindergarten, right? It was like fate, bro.
I know. Most fate. People I talk to are like, "You got held back in kindergarten." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not ashamed about it."
Well, it was never intelligence. It was like we were just
couldn't sit still,
boys, man. So why don't you introduce yourself real quick, and then we're gonna, because I know it's just gonna flow naturally. So tell them a little bit about yourself. Anything you want to mention? Maybe obviously how we met. You just mentioned that, but anything else? Tell them a little bit about yourself. Anything you want to mention, and then we'll just kind of jump into it.
Yeah. As Collin mentioned, my name's Cameron Clark. I'm originally from Louisiana, just like he is, and decided I wanted to go to college and go that route. Decided I wanted to be in business originally. After that, I decided I wanted something a little bit more concrete. Business is kind of a broad spectrum. Nothing wrong with that. Fits some people. I wanted something a little more concrete. I had a construction job with a girlfriend at the time.
Oh, I remember
and
that.
Yeah, bad times. Some good, mostly bad.
Yeah, that was one of those life learning relationships.
Yeah, it's one of those that you definitely want to remember, but you don't want to relive.
Yeah.
But I ended up being really good with my hands, and I was good with the industry, so I decided to take a stab at it. I ended up getting my bachelor's at University of Louisiana at Monroe. The day I graduated, I proposed to my wife, and within 4 or 5 days, I was out in Dallas, moved into my apartment, and that Monday I was at work.
Why did you move to Dallas, Cameron?
What's going on in Monroe, Louisiana for work?
Well, that's true.
Construction.
Yeah, you could have gone anywhere. Why'd you go to Dallas?
Well, one of the reasons was because you were here. I knew somebody around the area. We
always talked about it though, right?
Yeah, and
this dream, and me and you had
getting out of that area, that town. And Dallas is just the closest spot to go back. It's the closest spot to be able to have just about any job that you could possibly want, and still be somewhat close enough to get back home. Agreed. And then you were here, and so it just kind of fit,
I was fishing, bro. I was fishing. It's crazy too how lucky, because of all the cities we could have been closest to, it ended up being the DFW area, and DFW in the last 10 years has become such a hub. Not that it wasn't already, but especially with COVID and people moving and wanting a nice healthy balance. Man,
since we've been here, you always hear stories about, man, this was a field, just a few years ago, and when I first moved here, I heard a lot of that.
Right.
But just since we've been here, it's just blown up. Universal Studios is moving in now.
That's crazy in Frisco. I heard about that.
Yeah, and I did some research on that, and apparently Disney was looking around in the area. I don't know if they're still doing that.
I think your wife tagged me in a post about that, actually, for Universal.
I think I may have done that.
Maybe it was you, yeah.
Either way, but Disney was also looking in the area. I don't know if they're still doing that.
I hate Disney, so.
But
Universal for the one, bro.
I know, but it's still
conspiracy theories if you want.
Well, yeah, and that's a good conversation. But just the aspect of growth is what intrigues me. Just the opportunities are endless. No doubt I do miss being close to family. That's something that is hard to get over, but it's also hard to move back knowing what this area offers.
Some of the things I miss the most, like community, are things that kind of faded off, right? Because we had it as young kids growing up, we had like that, because we could run the neighborhood, things that kids don't really do these days, right?
I know.
You know, take 4-wheelers, run through trails, go through people's yards, and you know, we could make it to each other's houses. I mean,
I was telling Caitlin about that the other day.
It's like, I don't even think most kids are really gonna, I mean, unless you really go out in the middle of nowhere, most young people are not really going to relate to that these days.
Yeah, most of them. But yeah, you're right. If you go further out, you know, you're still gonna find that. But yeah, man. I mean, I didn't even ask my parents. They would be gone at work in the summer, and I'd jump on the fool and I'd drive. Yeah, I guess it was probably.
You drove all the way to my place before, and that was a pretty good drive.
Probably 10 miles at least, something like that. Maybe a little bit longer.
Yeah.
I don't know, something like that. But I mean, it was
from your place
back.
to my place?
Yeah.
You're not quite that far, but yeah.
Well, it definitely wasn't that far on the four-wheeler because I cut through trails and then I hopped the highway and then I went through some back roads and hopped the next highway.
The New Chapel Hill
Yeah. I had a trail that led back onto the next highway and then I hopped that one and I drove down a little bit and then I hopped into the New Chapel Hill.
Yeah.
And then I hopped the next highway and then I was over towards your house.
Dude, I remember one time I was so pissed, dude, because like, you know, and I was still in my more shut-in phase, so y'all would kind of have to come drag me out. But I remember hearing, you know, voices from the house one night, and I like popped my head outside, and all you little assholes had like shown up. My own little sister is out here hanging out.
I know. I don't.
Kaylin, the neighborhood girl.
I have no idea how that happened.
Like, I mean, like
the one person that should have been there wasn't there.
Yeah, and it's like you and Will, and like I'm just like. What the hell, dude?
Yeah,
you know,
that was an interesting night.
Get invited.
That was an interesting night.
You almost died on the 4-wheeler with Will.
Yeah, we ended up over at his parents' house, and we could always get away with a lot.
Will Reagan was crazy.
Yeah,
too.
and me and him, we were fun together, but me and him we knew that if we messed with each other, that we were gonna mess back. So it always between us, it always escalated very, very quickly.
Yeah.
So over at his parents' house, we could get away with a lot, but we still weren't. You'd have to be sneaky. You still weren't allowed to drink, and we'd get caught, and then we get our hands slapped, and we do it again. I'm
surprised y'all didn't clash more, because y'all were both very, like...
alpha male kind of at the time.
Alpha male, but I would even go further. I would be more specific and say, like, y'all had this, like, destructive, aggressive, like, you know, and you were searching, like, you were, you know, and you both had a very mischievous, like, if you saw an opportunity to do some... Not
just wild,
you know, outlandish shit.
There didn't have to be any real meaning behind it or purpose behind it, or I
didn't have that same inclination as a kid to like. You look for like I never forget the story about you all waiting on Ethan Powell around the pipeline.
On the pipeline, yeah, with the paint.
And you like called and like put up this whole charade and thought he was gonna show up on one.
We had our ghillie suits on up on the tree line.
Geared the fuck up, and you're like laying down and.
Because we knew how long it was supposed to take him to get there, and we were waiting and waiting. It was like, this is way too long. Yeah. And then suddenly we hear, "What are y'all doing?" And we turn around, and he's just sitting behind us. He had his aunt of all days, because we all summer long.
Drop him off at Will's?
Yes, because all summer long.
Around y'all.
Remember, I used to come over there, and I'd like almost live in that neighborhood with y'all.
I remember. Yeah.
And all summer long, he would always walk the pipeline. Mm-hmm. And then that day, for whatever reason, his aunt dropped him off. And so he walked up behind us, and me and Will looked at him, and then we looked at each other, and then we just grabbed our guns and just started laying him just as fast as we could. And then we chased him around the house. And sure enough, as soon as we turned the corner, there's his aunt. And she's freaking out. He jumps in the car and they haul it. Like, we're actually shooting real guns at him.
You two could be like, honestly, like sadistic menaces. I mean, y'all were menace.
Yeah.
Bro.
Well, back to that night, what had happened and how we ended up there is we had snuck up into his remember the old barn that had all the tools under it, and then his aunt lived up in the top of it. Well, we snuck into and she had all the alcohol up there, so like all the hard liquor. The beer, we could go to the kegerator and drink beer all day long, and they never know. But upstairs, you could get all the hard liquor. So we went up there and we got I think it was a bottle of vodka or something. I don't know. Back then, you drink anything you could get. And we got into we went into the garage. Remember, you couldn't even get a car in there. They had a boat and they had a bunch of boxes. Remember, his mom had the big black trash bags full of Natty Light. We jump off the roof into the bags and Natural Light bags. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But we had gone in there and I guess we were afraid of somebody pulling up and seeing us or something. So we had taken a bunch of cardboard boxes and stacked them into like almost like a castle circle around us. Then we stuck a box in the middle, and then we sat there and played quarters or something. I don't know, but we drank we did drink the entire bottle. And then I remember taking the last shot. We both had one, and we took the last shot, and we were sitting across from each other. And we just kind of like looked up at each other, and then out of nowhere, we just started fighting. Just like knocking the bottle over. Yeah.
Oh, I remember this story. Yeah, y'all destroyed that place.
throwing each other through the
right.
boxes,
That's right.
and then it would eventually just ended.
Yeah.
And then we were like, hey, let's go to Collins, and so we jumped on the four-wheeler.
Oh, this is what led up to that.
Yes,
Oh,
yeah. So we actually got another bottle, which was almost empty, but there was a little bit left.
Back to me now.
And we jumped on the four-wheeler, and I mean, dude, neither one of us should have been driving anything.
I mean, you weren't even old enough to.
No,
to
we weren't.
Drive or drink or anything.
No, I was probably close to 16, but I wasn't quite there yet. But yeah, we drove over there, and I think I tripped in front of your house or something. And I dropped the bottle and broke it all over the road.
That's funny.
You remember? You may not remember that.
I don't think I do.
Yeah.
Man, I thought about this the other day, and I've been meaning to ask you because I can't remember if this actually happened or if this is just something that I'm just coming out of thin air with. So I have this memory of hanging out at Michael Sullivan's house, and y'all would climb out, and I was terrified watching y'all, and we were climbing out onto the roof and jumping into his pool, but you had to run because the deep end was on the far side.
Yep.
And I did it one time, and it was the most terrifying thing ever. I wouldn't do it again, but it took me so long to build up that. Did I do that? Did y'all do that?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's crazy, man. We could have died.
But you're right, because the way that the angle was, you were closest to the shallow end.
It was already angled. The shallow end was angled away from you, but was closest to you.
Correct.
So
it was kind of at a weird angle. It wasn't straight. It was like this.
So you were jumping off over straight concrete.
Concrete, yeah.
Right, and then you had to have enough momentum to make it past the shallow end to hit the deep end.
Yeah, so it was a 2-story house.
Yeah.
I mean, you were up pretty high too.
Decently high.
Yeah. We spent a lot of time on that roof. That's the first time I smoked weed.
Really?
Out of a corncob pipe.
See, I was late to the game with smoking weed, so y'all have a lot of stories before I got.
Some old corncob pipe you had.
That's crazy, man. It's crazy.
Dude, I got into.
I know these stories are just gonna keep coming back as we talk.
Man, we could probably have about 20 podcasts before I get to a good fraction of all the stupid shit.
Easy.
Funny stuff, bad stuff, scary stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of it.
So let's talk about what do you do a little bit, man, and talk about kind of your path, where you're at right now. If you want to talk about goals or any kind of learning experiences you had. Let's start off with that subject. What do you do, man?
Yeah, so I'm in construction. I decided I wanted to go the project manager route. So my degree's in project management. I could have been the superintendent.
Sure.
Didn't really like the hours. Yeah. You're forced to be on site until whatever activity is done, and that kind of sucks. I've been there. I've done that. Yeah. So now I'm in project management. I was working for a GC, so we did ground up construction, schools. I did a lot of schools. Tornado shelters, tennis.
It's like commercial construction.
Commercial construction, turnkey. They call it turnkey. Okay. Ground up work, and then interesting story. I was going for another job, and we can go into that if you want, but it turned south fast. First day, actually.
Yeah, I know about this one.
And
you can talk about it if you want to. It's up to you. It's crazy because nothing prepares you for these kinds of things. And that's
I guess that is a good point to bring up in this conversation. So I had a good job. I've been there for 5.5 years. At the time I thought I was kind of stagnant.
Yeah.
And then
later, not happy where you were at, or what was the motivation? Like a little bit of everything?
I think, I mean, my job wasn't bad, but at the same time, I just felt like another number.
Yeah.
I'd done a lot of work above and beyond my scope, and I don't feel like I really got recognized for it.
Yeah.
And then once I got where I'm at now, which I'm very close with the boss and who is also the owner of the company, he told me about 3 or 4 months after I was working there that I think I kind of asked him who he spoke to, because I knew he had references from my past career, past job.
Yeah.
And he told me, they said that you were on the fast track to the next level. Well, I never felt that way.
Right. That's funny. You hear that and you're like, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah. Apparently I was a good employee and this and that, and I was on the fast track, but I never felt that way.
That's it seems like a fault of bad leadership and management, right? Because someone there thought that's what was going on, and they go, oh, Cameron must be really happy, he's on the fast track to, and you're feeling completely different.
Yeah, I mean, perception's reality, and it just that wasn't the case for me. And I think you get a lot of that the bigger you get. I mean, it's possible to still keep those values, but it's very hard the bigger you get. And the company I was with was, I wouldn't say it was large, but it was large enough.
It was sizable, yeah. How many employees would you say? Hundreds?
Yeah, we're probably at that time probably about 150. Now they're over 200.
Yeah. I feel like somewhere maybe around that 20 or 30 mark is where it really starts to get to a place where it's just too...
Yeah, whereas right now, I mean, I think we're at like 10.
Right where you're at now.
Yeah. I mean, we got more if you consider like some of our 1099 guys and stuff in the field, but as far as office personnel and upper field management, yeah, we're probably about 10.
And there's benefits and obviously risks, right? Because, you know, I've got Taha working with me now at the law firm. And so, you know, one thing I had to prepare him for was he's always worked, you know, his last job was a very large corporate job, right? AMC, right? And he was a big manager for AMC.
Yep.
And so you have the security of this large organization.
It's very true.
Right? And so there's not as much writing. You know, if you really mess up consistently, the company's probably not going to go under, right? But when you're 10 employees, 3 employees, 20 employees, right? There's a lot more weight on you.
Absolutely. And on the other side of that coin, if you screw up, it's much easier to cover it up in a bigger company.
Yes.
Whereas in a smaller company, you're not going to cover that shit up.
There's a disbursement of fault and responsibility at that scale.
Right. But at the glass half full perspective,
the problem you were experiencing,
you will also get recognized a lot easier.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, your accomplishments will be seen and recognized a lot easier. And that's something that I've enjoyed where I'm at now.
And then the smaller also, I think I think it's with greater risk comes greater reward, right? So the risk and the stress probably are higher. They're more felt, right? It's more direct. But I would say, especially on my experience, these smaller companies, there's you can sink your teeth into higher up individuals, right? Maybe even the owner.
Oh, absolutely.
So there's benefits to that. There's perks to that.
Yeah. So where I was at, our projects were so large that some of this terminology y'all may not understand, but let's say your task is RFIs and submittals. So it's a request for information, and your submittals is just documenting and approving the material you're using and making sure it's up to code and specs and based to the owner's liking, the engineer's preference, and just making sure you're installing what is required. And that task isn't difficult. But when you're on a large scale project, it could take one guy, and even bigger projects, maybe 2 guys, to accomplish that over a span of a year.
Right.
Along with a couple other things in between. Whereas where I'm at now on a smaller scale, I'm able to do, which actually I got a gentleman under me that does actually he does only the submittals. I do the RFIs, but I'm also over him. I teach him the submittals.
Was this
I do the RFIs.
Guy who was kind of learning? And
yes.
So he's doing good?
Yeah. He's picked it up. He's doing very well. There's a whole story behind that.
There's like a learning curve with emailing.
Yes, there was a learning curve, but also some domestic stuff had happened between him and his girlfriend. His girlfriend's kind of kooky in my opinion, and
that's another thing that
he thought he was going to go to jail, and then I have to talk to him. I was like, it's not that big a deal. I didn't know what was going on with him. I actually recommended my boss to fire him.
Really?
Yeah, because I was stressed out. Boss is stressed out. No, he doesn't know that. Well, I'll tell. Me and him are good friends now. I'll tell him to his face.
I'm just playing.
Yeah, I'll tell him to his face. But but I mean, he knew that it was rough. I think he was just scared, and he wasn't willing at that time.
He's younger too.
Yes, he's 23.
Yeah, so you're really in a place where you haven't experienced as many relationships, and it kind of hits you hard when they go.
Yeah, and then some things happen that could possibly damage him for the rest of his life, and it didn't. Wow. It didn't, and I told him at the time. I mean, in his mind, he saw it that way. Sure. I told him, I said, "Look, man, I've been around the block a few times. I know it's scary, but you don't have anything to worry about." And it took a little while for him to be able to open up to me about that, which is his prerogative. But you got to understand, from our point of view, we had just gotten rid of a guy that couldn't do his job worth a damn, and he put us in a bad situation. We had waited too long to fire him, which really wasn't my decision at that time.
Slow to hire, quick to fire.
Yeah, and exactly. It was the opposite of that. It was fast to hire, slow to fire, and it put us in a bad spot. I mean, we're still. I mean, that was probably 5 months ago, and we're still having repercussions of that. And so at the time, it was just, I would call him in my office, or he would come ask me a question, and I'm like, okay, I bring it up on my computer, I start working on it, and I look back and he's on his phone. He's not paying attention.
Like that professional work ethic and etiquette.
It was just there. He wasn't there. I would tell him something, and he was just like, I don't understand. He'd look at me and just like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I had that same issue with that communications major we hired as a receptionist, right? Straight out of college, great degree, literally a communications degree, right? And same thing, I would walk up to the desk and I'd be asking her to do something, and she would just, she would be on her phone, right? and she'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, and like look up at me, but she wouldn't even put the phone down, and it's like
yeah, and especially when like me, I've got the kind of mentality that if I walk into my boss's office and as soon as he touches that mouse or that keyboard, I'm behind his desk and I'm watching.
And I come from a corporate environment as well, like at Capital One headquarters, right? You can even have your phone out.
I remember that.
So and I mean, so many jobs leading up till the last few, jobs were like you can't be on your phone. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That was such it's so weird going from that place and our experience. I'm sure you have some of those work experiences to the culture now, which is very much so. People are just on their phone.
Yeah, well, most of my jobs was more or less like I don't care what you do. You can listen to music, you can watch the news, you can watch a show if you want. But if you don't get your work done, you're out of here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it doesn't look good. Of course, it doesn't look good. I wouldn't recommend that. It doesn't look good. I'm just saying.
On the job is different, though, than like if the boss comes in, right? If you come in and you're his manager, right? And you're giving him instructions, or hey, I'm critiquing you on something, right? Respectfully, put your phone down.
Oh, no doubt. And it's also a situation of if I've been there for a year and I'm of a higher level, higher up on the totem pole, I know what I'm doing. It's different for me to listen to music or even watch the news or do whatever I want to do while I'm working rather than you being new and coming in.
Agreed.
You don't have the respect.
Agreed.
We don't know you that well. You need to be on your ones and twos, P's and Q's, dot your I's, cross your T's, and all that kind of stuff. And it just wasn't happening. And so I went to my boss and I'm like, look, man, I cannot continue to do my job and his job. And not only his job, but to just constantly train him on things he's continuously asking back to back repetitively the same issue. It's taken me I could do the job faster if I just did it myself.
Right.
Like, get rid of him, pay me a little bit more, and I'll do it all.
It's so interesting too, because these are skills that you developed, I would say, mostly outside of school, right? And this is something they don't, like, that we were touching base on earlier. School is not going to prepare you for. This system doesn't prepare you to deal with some of these social,
I agree,
cultural issues within the workplace.
Absolutely.
You're more adept at that already, and I would say before even college, right? You kind of had more of an act for communication, right?
Yeah.
I think we both did, and so I think there could be a guy who's just as skilled as you are, or even more skilled at like when do I mix the concrete and what temperature and all these different things, right? The things that I'm not even
and I think on that school note, I do think school has its place in certain situations.
Sure.
In a lot of situations, school is becoming obsolete, and I understand. I agree with that.
Yeah.
But it's not all
STEM's has
all
its
or
place.
nothing.
STEM's has its place for sure.
Well, like for example, when I was going through college, and we don't have to talk about this now. We could talk about it another time, but I was struggling with a lot of stuff. I mean, most of it. Some of it you don't know. Again, I'm sure you know most of it. And at one point, I barely made it out.
Right.
And I had multiple friends, all of them flunked out, and I managed to make it just from sheer will, especially if you know what I did and what I was involved in and where I came from. I mean, it was a miracle that I made it out. And I did learn some stuff, but there's times where even now where I'm like, man, I know we went over this topic in school and I wish I would have paid attention.
Sure.
A lot of it really revolves around contracts. Like your physical skills, you're not going to learn that in school I mean, you can see it, but you're really not going to get the hands-on experience and the real experience unless you're in the field. But when it comes to contracts and stuff like that, that's the book stuff that I wish I would have paid more attention. I wish I would have been struggling with what I was struggling with. And it does affect me. Mm-hmm. It did set me behind a little bit.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I think I'm in the center with you on that, and I just lean slightly to the opposite, where I feel like, me personally, school was very much so little benefit. I liked psychology. I really liked economics, but I don't even agree with most of the economics they teach now.
And a lot of that you can learn without school now.
And a lot of that you can learn without school. I think there's exemplary people who can go into a lot of these positions that require degrees and whatever, and they can literally just power through it by sheer tenacity and intelligence and that vivacious hunger to want to learn and produce good results and have that positive energy. I think if you're a very driven person and you put yourself in front of somebody enough times, someone eventually is going to go, wow, man, you're ballsy. Like, all right, let's see what you got. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. For the most part, I think the degree And again, it's situational. Like doctors.
Do you think degrees are going to become like obsolete, or college is going to? I don't know if you're
not completely. No,
not completely. You don't think it's ever? I think.
I mean, like,
I think we're in a place where college could become.
I think it's going to be I mean, because used to it's like go to college, go to college, go to college.
Right.
And now I don't even agree with that. It all depends on what you want to do. Even in construction, and I mean, there's many people with my job that do not have a degree, but at that same situation, if I was to go for an interview and it was me with a degree and me without a degree, it's most likely that me with the degree is one that's going to get hired.
Sure.
And it's probably not even based on what your skill set is or how good you are. It's more or less like, well, both these guys are qualified, clearly, but this one's got a degree, which all it really says is he can complete that task.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
It gives me a little bit of an edge. Now, is that worth it for the amount of money? I got lucky because I ran on tops for most of it, but then I started screwing off and I lost it for part of it, so I ended up with like $20,000 worth of student debt, which is minuscule compared to most people.
Yeah.
Very minuscule. Yeah. So my situation was probably worth it. Yeah. Now, if I had to pay 100% of my school, then we may be singing a different tune.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, my experience was, I was working at Nissan, assistant sales manager, and I was interviewing someone, and at the time I was going to ULM full time. And I was just like, I was still having fun, hanging out, going out, I would come hang out with all y'all at night and stuff for the most part. But I wasn't really happy, and I was working myself to death. Mm-hmm. And I remember sitting at this table, and this guy, I think his name was Cody, and at the time I'm like 22, I'm young, 21, 22, and I sit down to my sales manager, he's like, hey, I got a guy, for you to interview him for me. Let me know what you think, right? And so I sit down with him, and he's 28, the guy I'm interviewing. And he had just lost his job with Budweiser. He did sales for Budweiser. And I sit down and I start going through his resume. And I'm in school for business. And he has the business degree that I'm trying to get. And he can't get a job. Right? And I'm sitting here interviewing this guy, and I have this like soulful conversation with myself, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at this guy who's older than me, who cannot get a job, right? Who's sitting in front of me, hoping I hire him as I interview him while I'm working myself to death, going to school full time while working to get his degree. Yep. And I have this moment where I laugh and I go, maybe I need to rethink things.
No doubt. And that's the same degree that I originally started out in.
Sure, yeah.
And it didn't take me long, which I knew I had a little bit of time because my degree in construction management took those base courses in business.
Right.
Management, business management, construction management. You're going to take a few of the same courses. Sure. So all my stuff would carry over. So, I was able to make that swap without losing any of my credits.
Yeah.
And then move into something more solid. But I remember thinking to myself that, what am I going to do with this business degree? It was just so broad. And
I felt the same.
I just didn't have that feeling like I would be able to get out of here and get a job like that. And with construction, I had a job a month before I even graduated.
I had this entrepreneurial CEO kind of thing that I felt so compelled to be and wanted to be. My idea of what that is has changed drastically, but I knew I wanted to be like my own person.
Mm-hmm.
And
school, we're like-minded in that.
We're like-minded, right? In school, it did not give me any value to do those things, right?
Yeah.
If anything, it was molding me to be a yes man and molding me to, not think for myself, more like this is how you should think and what you should think, not, it didn't feel the philosophical, romantic idea of college and university that I had in my head. It wasn't that, it wasn't that anymore. And I think it used to be at one time. I think college was that thing. And I think now at best, you're kind of paying for an experience at best. And you do have STEMs that I think, that I think does still offer you that edge into that career for sure. You definitely can't be a doctor without going to med school.
Right.
I get it. I do get it. But it's not what it is. And, this leads me into I'm going to bring back to another question I have for you. But so with my last podcast with Vince, we talked about Chat GPT. Do you know what that is?
I've heard of it, yes.
So it's like this AI, platform they've released, and you can
ask it the questions.
You can ask it questions or ask it to do things, right? And so this is really cool. I'll give you a little rundown of what it can do, because I think there's going to be this big drastic change, especially to like university potentially because of this new technology. This thing's only going to get smarter, right? So, the idea is kids are going to be able to use this to write an essay. And they can tell it to write it very specifically in their own words by feeding it information. And it's like, how do you, when anyone can just write an amazing, so like,
in a matter of seconds.
In a matter of seconds, right? So Jordan Peterson, you got to use it when it was first released, right? And he said, hey, read my book. Or, it's already been fed the information about his book. I'm not exactly sure how it all works. And, my book has this many chapters. Write me another chapter following the final chapter in my own works and use, do it in ancient, use these ancient works of literature as like the guidelines for the writing style. And it's like, boom, 3 seconds. Does it, writes it, and he says, for better or worse, I couldn't tell that I didn't write it. And then a Twitter employee that hasn't been working, said, hey, I haven't been working. It's been so long. Write me a list of objectives, and by the way, after you complete that list of objectives or work I should have been doing, write the code that should go with these objectives. Boom. I think it was like 3 seconds. List the objectives and accesses code and supplies the code for the completion of those objectives. The code works. So it's like, where does that go? Like, that thing's only going to get smarter. And
the applications it could be applied to.
I think it's a good thing. I think it will lead to, all in all, a better life for people for the most part. But obviously, there's going to be job losses. I think there's going to be a rethought process of how do we do things? How do we grade people? Right? Because they had this thing write an essay for itself and then grade its essay. At some point, certain subjects, you're going to start eliminating the human need.
Yep.
It's really interesting. So I think this is going to be a detriment to colleges who at the time are just a mess. A mess, right? And they're so ingrained in political, climates and this social, cultural, all these things that the Western world is going through right now. And I just don't know what's going to happen to college, man. Jordan Peterson was like, I think college is doomed. And I don't know that he's right. But
compared to what it is now, I would agree.
Yeah. It's interesting though, right?
I think it'll still be colleges. I just don't think that they're going to be what they are now. I think they're just going to shrink to a matter of a few different, degrees that are necessary.
Yeah, that may be the case. I think that'd probably be for the best though.
Yeah.
That'd probably be for the best.
Absolutely.
That's interesting. So then, since we were just talking about your career, if you were looking and having a conversation with the younger version of yourself, who's kind of like, oh, I think I'm going to go into construction or because we may have some audience who are in that boat, right? That's really the audience. I want to be able to add value, right, and keep it entertaining, but also, I want someone who's listening and maybe they're younger and they're trying to figure it all out, and they go, man, I like that Cameron guy. I like what he's saying. He seems like he's kind of got it together, and I'm interested in working in this field that he's in. But I'm at the starting line. What's some advice you would give them? I know that's a very broad.
No, it is, question. And what's going through my head right now is that it's much more complicated than, do this or do that. For me, originally, it was I want a degree that I can fall back on, whether I use it or go another direction. I want something steady that I can fall back on, that I can support my family. And it's not a bad thing.
That seems reasonable.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. And it's been good. My wife's able to stay at home with her child.
That's awesome. That's a blessing.
And a lot of people can't do that.
Right.
So it has been, it's absolutely been a blessing. It really has. So I can't complain. But there is a small part of me, maybe not small, maybe even quite large, that wishes I would have followed a passion. Yeah. Construction's not my passion.
What's your passions,
bro? I like arts.
You like arts?
Like, I like movies, editing videos, being artistic. Even though I haven't really explored that side very much, absolutely. Mm-hmm. That's 100% what I would do.
There's never been a better time though. Like, look at this right here.
I know.
There's never been a better time.
I know. I tell Caitlin, actually, it was back when we lived in Savannah.
Yeah.
I think I was just frustrated with work, and it was just repetitive, I was venting, and I said something similar to that.
Yeah.
And she said, well, why don't you go to school for it? And it was nice that she would support me like that. But at the same time, it's like, how can I do that? I got to support my family. You know what I mean? Now, if I could do it on the side like this or something and build it into something, that would be a good route to take.
Well,
but there's no way for me to go back to school.
Caitlin supports you strongly. I think that's the wrong way to look at it, though. I mean, if you're really curious about it, I don't think school for arts is the way to go.
Yeah, and I mean,
unless you're going at the very beginning, it's kind of
right. And of course, she knows nothing about it.
It's like, oh, I really want to love to play the guitar, right? It's like, why don't you go to school to play? It's like, just save up, buy a guitar, watch YouTube. You know, there's so many unique paths forward now that were not available, and you know that advice is the very traditional mainstream path. Not that it's not a path, and it's clearly a viable one, but there's all these new lucrative paths forward, right? So if you are really truly interested in that, man, that's something that you can slowly save up all the things to do, and you can just do it, man. I'd be curious to know like what genre or what topics, you know, how you'd want to, you know, would you want to do a podcast like this? Would you want to create like short videos for social media? Would you want to, you know, I don't know, you know, like, because it's taken me a while to really, you know, I was like, oh, I'm going to make mountain bike videos, or I'm going to build PCs, and I'm going to make educational videos on PC, or I'm going to stream while I game, you know, or I'm going to make a podcast and, you know, have really cool, interesting guests on, and, you know, this, that, and the other. I'm going to start my own business, Amazon shipping, you know, I've been all over the place dipping my toes in things, trying to really figure out what it is I want to do, what it is going to bring me passion, and obviously bring in the money, right? Because we got to pay the bills, life goes on, you know, I want to be able to, you know, protect and provide, and, you know, I want to be able to have fun, flex a little bit, ball out, go enjoy my life. Like, life is too short, you know what I'm saying?
Yep, absolutely.
So, now has never been a better time for exactly what you're talking about. I'd be super curious to know, like, you know, because you always really got so in, you would dive into these, you know, different hobbies and had all these different interests. You know, I always loved your remote control car phase. That was a cool phase, man. And you got really into it, and like had this really souped up remote control car. I mean, you've had a lot of different interests and hobbies. God, I don't know why this just popped in my mind, but I think about our Beyblade phase. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Bro, I would get
I still think those things are badass.
Those things were badass, but I would get so mad at you because you always got like the best stuff. And so like whether it was like Yu-Gi-Oh or the Beyblades, I remember I showed up at your place and I had like my new Beyblade and I was so excited, right? And it was like a little plastic and it like the little
What did you get at Walmart and stuff?
Right? And you had like a solid metal gold one and yours just like, you were like, yeah, brah, and just like ate mine up, chewed it up and spit it out. Like literally like, chunks of mine are flying the fuck off. And I'm so damn mad, bro. And then like the Yu-Gi-Oh phase, right? I would just get so aggravated because you would manage to get like the next coolest, better version. So I never forgot I got like that like arm thing and you could play and it was like kind of cool. And then you showed up with like the bigger one, like Do you remember that? Bro, I was so mad. I was like, yeah, no one's gonna have this. And you show up and you have like the Kaiba version that like extends. I'm just like, and has like more places for cards. And I was just like, wow. This camera guy.
I mean, it sounds kind of familiar. I don't really remember that one, but I remember having all the God cards and stuff like that. But
that was a crazy thing.
Yeah, when I get into something, I'd really get into it.
You're going hard, man, which I think we share that in a lot of ways, and we get really passionate. So
forging was really enjoyable.
I'm always very interested to see anything you kind of dive into because I always feel like one of these days Cameron's going to hit something and it's going to be like the thing. You know what I'm saying? Maybe not the thing, but you know. I think it's a matter of time before you hit a dam and it's just gonna burst. You know what I'm saying? I think that's true for a lot of people. So you know, I'm excited to hear that, man. You do a lot of things right now, but you shouldn't box yourself in because right now it's like the internet, man. You just need a camera, a couple mics, and you can do a lot of things. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
You know, whether it's educating people on construction or if you'd be happier maybe making videos about construction and kind of like this is how these things work or whatever, right? It could be anything, right? It could be anything. So I'm super curious to see where that goes. So your advice then is don't, if I'm hearing you correctly, don't think that don't have this one-dimensional way of thinking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, my initial goal was just to make sure I could support my family. I was raised up, idolizing my dad doing that. And again, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that at all.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, you've got to, you got to find happiness.
Yeah.
And whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
And I just haven't really found it in construction. I'm content. Like I can, support my family and
really
go
good at
home
it,
and be
too.
happy with them. And yeah, I'm successful.
Yeah.
But it's not a passion of mine. I don't wake up in the morning and go, oh man, I'm ready to go to the job site.
Is this something you think you could do and then integrate the passions, or is it something that you think is going to prevent you from pursuing those passions? You think eventually you'll have to
Honestly, probably prevent.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I could more or less see starting off something on the side and growing it until the point where I can afford to get away from this.
Right.
And it may even be,
Sustainability,
hell, for all I know, maybe it could be on my own side construction or whatever.
That might be cool.
I mean, that would be more enjoyable than building somebody else's dream.
Of course. Yeah, of course not. I feel the same exact way.
Not sure if it would be my passion, but,
right.
It'd be better than working for somebody else.
Yeah, we're in the exact same boat there, man. You can love and respect someone to the end of the earth, but it's not your baby. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't.
Yep.
That's something that Joe didn't really understand at first. He wanted, and I'm a go-getter like yourself, man. We're motivated guys.
Yeah, give me part of the business and then let's go.
Right.
They ain't gonna do that.
So people don't realize, they want, no one's gonna treat it like your baby until they're as invested as you are.
Absolutely.
Right? If you own a business and you want them to work as hard as you're gonna have to give them equity, man. There's no way around it. You're gonna have them, invested in it, because now it's their business too. It's their baby too. And a lot of people don't understand that, and I don't think you should give it that much. It's not your thing, and you're not going to get rewarded in the same way. I think you should do your job and do it well and take pride in whatever you're going to do. But I think that was something I had to learn, and I think you learned that too, right? Because I remember, I think I kind of started figuring this out maybe a little bit before you, because I was so all in, and every time I would get a new role in a new company, and I would, big starry eyes, and this is amazing. Like the Capital One headquarters, it was like Google riding bikes and a slide from the 5th to the 1st, and restaurants inside, and they called it the campus. And I remember just being wowed by it and like giving it my all, right? And giving it my all. And eventually I got to a place where, I would never rob anyone of their time. They're paying me, they deserve me to give what I'm being paid for, right? Mm-hmm. I should bring value, and I should respect their business, but I should also respect myself and make time for the things that are growing me, right? I should be working just as hard, if not harder, on the things for myself as I am for the things for them, right? Yeah. And that's something people don't.
And there's definitely
figure it out.
I understand that completely. There's definitely a cupcake phase where everything seems so beautiful and pretty, and then it dies off fairly quickly. And if you're not prepared for that, it can hit you a little bit harder than what it really should.
Right. No doubt, man. No doubt.
Reality kind of sets in, like, this is not as good as I thought it was a month ago.
Yeah, adulting comes in, and it hits hard, man. It hits hard.
Is.
Yeah,
it does.
That's crazy, man.
Shit. You want to go back and talk about all the fucked up fun stuff we did?
So let's talk about where we come from, because I'm probably, if I have someone else on who's from where we're from, it's probably going to be a while. And so, we are not from a good place, right? We're from West Monroe, Louisiana. Although it has its characters, and I would say character traits, and there are some good things about it. A lot of the things I was mentioning earlier that I miss are like the community that's kind of gone, like our friends are kind of, you know what I'm saying? I miss like the stars. I miss nature. Mm-hmm. There's a lot. I miss the quietness that you can find there.
Yeah, and my mom and dad have a little bit of property now, so we go out there and hang out, and it's like that again. It's nice. It really is nice. You kind of get to
your soul kind of gets to reground itself.
Absolutely, it's very basic. I mean, you walk. They got the deer feeders, and you have the creek running behind it, and you walk. I mean, you got a shooting lane for go shoot your guns or whatever. Yeah. You walk right down the little dirt road, and there's a goat and a donkey and a horse, and you go over there and pet them and just hang out.
It's hard because at first it was fun here and it was like a jungle here, but as I've gotten accustomed to it, I very much sometimes feel like a wild animal that was used to that nature, and it's like I'm trying to function in this domesticated city type of environment. and sometimes it's like I miss those things. So anyway, it was, we made top 10 for murder per capita or something like that. There were a lot of drugs. The South Side of Monroe can be brutal, man. And it was growing up. It was real easy. It was slow, and there was a lot of boring, dull times, and it was real easy to find trouble. It was real easy to find trouble.
Oh yeah.
Anything come to mind?
Too much to really pinpoint one thing, honestly. Dear Lord. I can't even pinpoint. You know how it is. Like, we'll just be talking and something will pop up. Oh, you remember this? And I mean, it really is so much. I mean, if I think about it, I could come up with some off the wall, crazy stuff that we got into.
Yeah.
A lot of bad, a lot of good.
Birthday, that one time we got ratted out. You remember that?
Yeah. Will told.
The police.
No, he told Garrett Wilkerson.
Oh, really?
That's how it happened.
Really? That's how that happened?
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. See, and Will was such a, I would never guess him being a snitch. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that surprised me too.
It surprised me. And I still like Will a lot. He calmed down a lot and seemed like he really, I don't know what he's doing these days, so I have no idea. But,
I don't know either.
Yeah.
I know he got married, he cleaned up.
So this was, I was the good kid out of the group of kind of wild guys. And so my parents kind of gave me a lot of slack. And for, what was this, my 16th birthday? I don't remember. I think it was my 16th birthday.
Maybe.
No, maybe it was my 18th birthday. No, 17th. It was one of those. It was kind of like, okay, you're an adult almost now. I was getting
I don't think it was 18. I think
it was maybe 16. I think it was maybe 16.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And so my parents had kind of given us the unspoken, permission to go roll someone or whatever, TP their house. And
of course, we had to take it too far.
Oh, we took it way too far.
I think what really got us was Ethan taking a shit in the driveway.
No, I think it was throwing eggs at the door and rocks at the garage. I think that's scared them.
Yeah. The shit, though, didn't help.
Oh, no.
But
they didn't know about that at first, They didn't know. They thought they were like...
That's right. They thought it was an animal. They thought it was an animal or something.
Something's attacking us,
And then when we were over there cleaning everything up, I don't remember who said it, but it came out. And we ratted on ourselves.
Garrett to come out. And, lo and behold... unknowingly...
They were gone.
It was just his mom and little brother.
Yes.
So they're terrified.
Thinking somebody's breaking in the house.
And there's these wild animals outside just throwing shit at the house. So we had been, rewind it. So we armed ourselves for this. This was a mission, right? We got a bunch of you had those industrial army surplus rolls of toilet paper. Yeah. And we could just walk these back roads, right? So we walked, and we had really decided who we were gonna hit.
We didn't, yeah. When we were at the house, we didn't really know.
Yeah, and so I think that idea of wanting to roll someone that we actually knew was more appealing.
Yes.
Yeah. Because you might get caught or whatever. And,
yes.
And for everyone,
and we got caught.
We did get caught. We went to high school with this guy, and we went to Boy Scouts before that, and played football.
Yeah,
with him.
I remember sitting out there pulling all the toilet paper out of the trees and cleaning up all the eggs on Sunday morning.
So we
both of our parents.
We rolled the house. Well, professional rolling. It looked like it snowed. And those are some tall pine trees in Louisiana. And then throw eggs at the door. And then rocks. And then Ethan, you bullied Ethan.
Wait.
You bullied Ethan into taking a shit, bro.
Did I?
On that drive. Yeah. So, well, maybe not bullied, but aggressively encouraged.
I don't remember that. And probably the reason I don't remember that, and this is shameful of me to even mention, and I feel horrible about it. I didn't mean to. I swear to. Remember all those times where I'd throw something at y'all, and I really didn't think I would hit y'all, but I was a crack shot for some reason, and I would hit y'all, and it would hurt really fucking bad. I don't know, just random shit, like a slingshot in one single paintball while Ethan's flying down the road,
and I'm on the back of the 4-wheeler, you asshole.
And I hit him, and I mean it left a worse mark than any paintball gun I've ever seen.
Yeah. Oh, that wasn't that my sling, and it had the brace on it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, you could really...
The wrist rocket thing, yeah.
Dude.
I mean, one single paintball, and y'all were flying down the road. I was like, what's the odds of me actually hitting y'all? And sure enough.
Bro, I mean, he the wheels came up, and I mean, he recovered, but bro.
Yeah. So same situation, though. Same situation. We had left the house, we rolled the house, and we were walking, we were just goofing off and everything, and I grabbed a rock, and I threw it. and it went straight through one of their neighbors' front doors.
We were all throwing, though, and I think it was you who hit it.
Yes, everybody was throwing, and yes, everybody's throwing.
What we didn't know is the front door.
The front, yes, the
most
front,
doors out in the country
that little
wood,
weird glass front door.
This one had and you couldn't see it because it's all glass.
Exactly,
and you just hear like
straight,
and we're like
hauling ass.
Shit.
And then we were out there cleaning it up, and the guy comes pulling by, and he goes, "Hey, do y'all think that whoever rolled y'all's house broke the window?"
So the adults, it's a long driveway, and the adults are all up at the front.
Yes, and we're out at the road,
way up back the driveway, watching us, like having a good time, having drinks, and we're all down there just cleaning up our mess, right? And this guy pulls up, and he's like, "Hey, man, someone broke our glass door last night. Do you think it was the same people who did this?" And we were all like, "Oh no!"
I remember you said, "Oh no, we actually rolled this house. We did this. So it wasn't us." I remember I think it was you said, and it was very clever to say, "No, that we actually did this. This is our friend's house, but no, we didn't break the door."
Did I say it like that?
I could have sworn it was you.
Yeah,
but yes, that was said. I thought it was you that said that. But yeah, I felt horrible because I didn't mean to do that.
Yeah, no, but I mean, dude, it's just fun. It's fine. We're just dumb kids, bro. I think you need to do some of those things as you're growing up. Because,
we did a lot.
Yeah, well, you needed a little more than others. Like, 'cause you were a little destructive. Yeah. I'd never forget. You got so mad one night at your mom that, like, this was back in high school, bro. I think it was high school, right? Or maybe right after high school. And I've never,
it was
like,
high school.
You could be a scary little fucker, Cameron.
It was in high school because I was definitely on steroids.
You know what I'm talking about. You already know what I'm about to talk about. And so you come out of the into the garage.
I can't even remember what it was about. I don't even know.
And just like you're pissed because she said no to something, or I don't remember. You got in trouble for something. I don't remember, right? And you just walk over to like the back quarter panel of your mom's Honda.
Oh, I remember what it looked like. Accord, I remember that.
And you just like, and you literally headbutt
that
this
dent was in there to the day they sold it.
Bro, a giant dent. And I was just like, bro, this guy, I'm glad he's on my team. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
like,
man.
Dude. Like,
that's not even close to the worst thing I've ever done.
But you had a good heart, but you could have made like a terrifying bad little kid if you had wanted to, man,
Yeah.
You kind of knew what, I think thanks to your mom and dad, you had the right, like you knew right from wrong, but you had such like a destructive...
I wanted to push the limits.
You did.
Like I felt for a long, now I don't feel that way at all, but at the time I'm like... I'm Superman. Nothing's gonna hurt me. I can do whatever.
Why do you think that? Why do you think you were like that? What like about you?
I have no idea.
What about you? Like
I don't know. I just thrill seeker, I guess. I don't know how one gets to be like that. I don't know.
It's weird too, because I was very much so not like that growing up as a kid, and I've kind of flipped, and I'm more outgoing and more willing to try some wild things.
Right, because I remember at some points, like, you were like, "Hey, man, let's do this," and I'm like, "Really?"
Yeah.
Dude, I've done that.
Yeah.
I'm fucking tired.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that again.
I was such a late bloomer. Like, high school ended, and I was just figuring it all out, like, finally getting, like, decently socially acute. And
we'd jump off of bridges and stuff. Now I'm like, the hell with that.
Yeah. I'll never forget the story about it was Michael's ex-girlfriend who got her leg caught up in the... Was it his girlfriend?
No, it was mine.
Oh, it was your ex-girlfriend? Who was it? She
Shit.
jumped off and she like slid down the rope and it tangled up around her leg.
So we had it was by Joe Bob's Landing. They had that bridge that, depending on how much it rained recently, it could be a fairly intense bridge to jump off of. Well, somebody had gone up underneath
into a bayou, basically.
Yeah. Well, it's a river.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a river that runs through there, and there's a big bridge that crosses it.
It looked like, to the average person not from Louisiana, it'd look like a bayou, though. It's very marshy.
Yeah. But we'd always park and then walk down the road and then go down underneath the bridge, and that's where we'd all swim at.
Right.
And somebody had climbed up. Now I could probably figure it out, but back then I didn't know how they did it. But there was these cross beams that went all the way up the bridge, still I-beams. And they had carried wood up there, like shimmied up the little I-beams or whatever, and built this little platform. and then there was a rope swing that you could swing, or you could jump off the end of it. And there was no ladder or anything to get up there. You had to grab and shimmy up and then shimmy up and then shimmy up until you finally get up there. Yeah. And so we threw her the rope, and what she did wrong is she put the rope between her legs. Oh, no. Like you would swing, but I mean, you are swinging, but you're letting go as you get out there, you know? Yeah. So what she did is when she had her leg around the rope, as she let go, she still had her legs fairly tight around the rope, and as she slid down, it just caused a whipping effect on the end. So it wrapped around her leg and then flipped upside down and dunked her head in the water. Dude. And so I jump in to swim out. By the time I make it to her, she kind of like wiggled out of it. And she was tough. She's like, "Oh, I'm fine." I'm like, that looks like it fucking hurt. She had whelps all the way around her leg. Surprised it didn't. I'm seriously surprised it didn't yank her. Dude, I can't.
My boy had a couple ex-girlfriends by this point.
I can't remember. I remember what she looked like. She had a big forehead. I don't remember. I remember what she looks like, but I don't remember her name.
That's wild, bro. That's wild. Yeah. Okay, interesting. That's too funny, man. That's too funny. Well.
Yeah, I remember that girl. She jumped me in the driveway, and then her mom pulled up at the same time.
Oh.
Awkward.
Oh. That's rough. That's rough. I definitely remember the construction, stepdaughter, she was a wild one, and me and her hated each other.
I'm not gonna talk about that one.
and then there was that other girl. I'm trying to remember her name. And she's like, didn't she try to stab you or something? That girl you were dating back in high school? I forget her name. I don't remember. I thought she tried to stab you though.
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't remember that.
Yeah. I think we're gonna have to do a couple episodes to let some of these different stories kind of come back, because there's so many.
Absolutely.
There's so many.
Yeah, there's one side of the life that would probably take at least one whole episode to really talk about.
If not more. Yeah.
But
I think I know. Well, so let's try to reel it back into construction a little more, because again, that's kind of where you're at in life now. So you're not necessarily just passionate about it, but you are good at it. It is a skill set you've developed. Going back again to any other advice, is there any other advice, you give to someone who is they're looking at the world and going, okay, man, AI and technology, and I'm looking for a security, I don't see this being a job that's going to be outsourced to robots anytime soon, building schools.
Oh, absolutely. And especially around here. I mean, if you want a solid job,
buildings going up left and right.
Man, it's not stopping, and it's not going to stop.
Is there any other advice or anything you do to help prepare? If you're talking to like your younger brother or a young kid you're mentoring, and they said, I want to do what you do, what other advice would you give them, man? Anything?
Well, I think it's situational depending on the person. Again, if you can go to school without incurring the entire debt, it may be worth it. And I think there is a lot of benefit to it, other than just the fact that you have the diploma that does give you a leg up. But for some people, I wouldn't recommend that. There's a lot of guys that either have even associate's degrees or no degrees at all that do what we're doing. I think that most of the guys in our office personnel, have degrees other than the owner and then the new guy.
That's crazy. The owner literally doesn't have a degree.
I don't think he does.
Does he look for guys with degrees, though? I think that says a lot. I think that says a lot right there, that the owner, the entrepreneurial person, doesn't have a degree, and then all of the people underneath him, the just standard workers, do have degrees. I think that really drives home some of my thoughts. That's interesting.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting, and I don't think he does. I'm quite certain he doesn't. But he also, you got to understand that he started off driving a concrete truck.
Right.
So he started off low.
The bottom.
Whereas with me, I'm going to start off as an assistant project manager or a project engineer and then an assistant project manager. I'm going to be years ahead of him with a degree. I will be a few years behind him because I got the degree. Yeah. But after you get the degree, it's going to skyrocket me up to that point. And it all depends on how hard you work. But yeah, he started off driving a concrete truck, and over 25 years or so, he got enough experience to open his own open his own company.
So seeing what you've seen now and seeing him, and you look at this and go, I would like to do this. That thought you mentioned it earlier. So the thoughts crossed your mind. Running your own concrete business or something maybe something in this industry.
Very possible. What
it would take to do that?
Well, obviously, money and the knowledge, and you really want to make sure that you have a strong foundation, because you just like real estate, it is very volatile. You can make a mistake like that costs you everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it can get you. Yeah. We had a big scare over at our company recently, right. And it wasn't anything that we'd done per se that was our fault. Mm-hmm. But it was just a freak accident, and two of them happened right next to each other. Mm-hmm. So the way it works is, if you're doing, I think this year we did right at $10 million in our first 3 years. That's pretty good.
Okay. And when did he start this company? It's only been...
We just hit 3 years.
Really? Wow. So it's like a big...
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we hit about 10 million. I think next year we're hoping to double that. Now that we've got a strong team. But you got to understand, when he first started, he was doing it at his kitchen table and doing every job by himself. So it took a while to get the, really the biggest thing was the credit limit.
Really?
Because
business's credit limit.
We all run off of credit.
Right. So you got to scale up your ability
to carry that much credit. And once you can do that, then you can hire this guy, you can hire this guy, you can start doing this and start doing that. So it took him a while to get to that point. He had to get close to 3 years. And I was one of the first people that he hired. So...
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I was third.
Okay.
And then when I got hired, I walked into an office.
20? You're scaling quickly.
Oh no, we're not close to 20. I think we're close to about 10 just office, but then we've hired a bunch of guys on the outside too.
I see.
So we're over 20 if you consider the field guys. But I was the third one in the office that was hired.
Interesting.
But yeah, we run off, everything's run off of credit.
And is this typical of this kind of industry?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So for us, what happened is we had two jobs. One was named Aqualine, and one was named IDP. It was Integrated Defense Products.
Okay.
And Aqualine, thank God, we were pretty much all the way done. Mm-hmm. And the only thing that we had outstanding is what we call retainage. Mm-hmm. And it's part of what we are owed, but they hold on to it until the project's complete, our warranties are in, everything's done, and like, okay, here's your last little bit of money.
Right.
Okay, so luckily we're at that point. On that job, a tornado hit it, and it twisted the beams, and it messed a bunch of shit up. And so after that happened, it caused so many problems that our money is now held up. So that's money that you have to carry on your credit. If if you're good enough, your retainage is just profit. Right. But if you have any mistakes or you're carrying this, some of that may be money that you're carrying on your credit limit, and every month you're paying interest on that. So then we'll go to IDP. IDP, I think we're about.
So it's in your interest to complete the job as quickly as possible, pay off that debt.
Yeah, well, you do pay apps every month, and
right,
so
what are you paying on that interest alone, or?
Well, so you have bills to pay. You have your employees. You have your material.
Right,
at the end of that month, you want to be able to pay off all of that.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So you want to pay down as much as your credit limit as possible, because you're paying interest on it, and at that large of a scale, the interest is a lot.
So on it
builds up
like this, where you have something like a storm, right, like an act of God, right, an insurance talk, is that something you're now liable for? You have to go in and repair all of these things out of your pocket? Or
no, insurance will kick in, and then we'll have to go do the repairs, and we'll get paid again.
So you carry some form of insurance to cover your business?
And then the owner does too. But it's in this situation, it's not our insurance because it wasn't our fault.
Okay.
Our insurance doesn't kick in.
So the owner of the building or...
Yes.
Okay, I see.
Yes.
I see.
So it's Aqualine facility, so Aqualine would be the one, their insurance provider would be the one to fix it. They would pay us to do it and go do it, but again, that is a long process
to fix all of that.
Oh yeah, I mean, you got to get insurance adjusters got to come out
because you got to go out
Yeah, insurance adjuster's got to come out, and then you got to bid the work, and you got. I mean, it'll take months and months and months. So if you had a lot of money tied into that is run off of credit, you're paying that every single month until you can get it done with.
The completion rate has been extended
Right.
significantly.
Yes. And you typically they don't pay out. Even let's say we're concrete guys. We're the first ones there, and the first ones to leave.
Yeah.
They do not pay retainage until the project is 100% complete. That means that they don't pay retainage until the painter puts his last bit of paint on the wall. And then they punch everything out, finish all the warranties, and then everybody, including the concrete guy, will get the retainage.
Yeah, so that, as far as that industry, you're the first one to have to do the work, and you're still...
One of the first, one of the two probably, dirt guy.
And then everyone gets paid last, no matter what.
Retainage, yeah, your retainage last, yeah. So an IDP, what happened is a company that we've been working with regularly. I mean, they're was one of our preferred clients. They were running strong, and we were about knee deep, getting close to waist deep in that project. I mean, we had a lot of material on site. And we're carrying all of that. I mean, in 1 month on just that one project, we could have a couple $100,000 of our money just sitting on that project. And so easily, I mean, it could be quite a bit more than that.
It sounds like, to get started like this owner did, you got to have you got to have balls, right? Like they're not going to teach you this in business college, right? You got to have balls, right? Because you're taking out debt probably for something that could have all these problems, right? And then you have to manage that, because I mean, some people just, it's such a mental burden, an emotional burden, right?
Yeah.
All this debt and like stress.
There's so many different avenues to it, though. I mean, estimating your projects, you got to be very picky and choosy, but we do all of our in-house estimating. So when you go out and you look for a job, you want to get the job, but you need to make sure that you're competitive, but not too competitive.
You got to leave enough money to make sure you get it done and have.
And a lot of these guys, they do that because, I mean, look, it's industry wide. We're gonna overcharge. Like if you came to us and asked us to do a job, we're gonna overcharge you.
Right.
Quite a bit, especially on a bigger project, because odds are there's gonna be mistakes. But that's kind of the gamble, is that I'm going to try to do the best job that I can so that we limit those mistakes as much as possible. Because if you do, your profit margins are going to be so much higher.
But then everyone's doing that too. Everyone's trying to give themselves wiggle room. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
I mean, some people look at it as crooked, but it happens. It's industry wide.
It's crazy that like the buildings that are towering over our heads are being built by this like this system in which you're like bidding.
Yeah.
Right. And because I mean, in real estate, I've seen one too many times where projects run out of money. Right. Mm-hmm. The attorney I work with, right, they're building, him and his ex-wife at the time, ex-wife now, they're building a home, right? They hired this this builder to come in, and because we have a friend who's a builder too, and I'll have him on sometime, but so they hire this builder to come in, and they're building this very nice home, right, in a nice very expensive, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they've got the builder on a allowance, right? That's kind of how those work. And so builder runs out of money, right? House is not complete. There's literally like no wall in certain spots. And
that could be caused by a lot of different things, though.
I mean, from what I understand, builder just didn't budget correctly on their end. Yeah. And just ran out of money.
Well, if there's a contract, he's got to find a way to fork it up.
Yeah, well, he filed bankruptcy, and so
that's a way to fork it up.
but he didn't have anything to take. So that this guy is just he's out.
Joe.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm sure Joe will talk about it. Yeah, it's Joe. Yeah. So.
Wow.
Yeah. You've never heard from him.
And so that situation can happen, here as well. I mean, if you have a major bust, if you have an estimator that's not paying attention, and he misses, the paving is supposed to be 6 inches, and we bid it at 5. Right. Well, that's an inch of concrete over how big of a spot. You're forking all that up because you signed on the dotted line to say you could do it at that price. So we overestimate a lot of stuff.
As you should.
So if we say, like, I'm going to bid you this job, it's going to cost me this much, and I'm only going to make 10% over OHP, overhead and profit.
Right.
That is bullshit. I don't care who you are or how honest you tell me you are, that's BS. You've overestimated on probably every single line item in your estimate.
Interesting.
Because you want to make sure, not only do you want to give yourself a chance to make money, let's just be real. People are greedy when it comes to money. But on a more cellular level, you want to make sure you're covered.
Yeah.
Because shit happens.
Yeah.
It does. It happens to the best. And you want to make sure you're covered. So anyways, we were at IDP, and this company is a GC, so they're a ground up general contractor. And I didn't realize this, but they were in commercial construction, but they also had a foot in the multifamily game. And so I had no idea that they had their paws in multifamily. Well, one day I got a call and they said, "We're done. We got called in for a meeting Friday morning," and I was kind of friends with some of these guys.
Yeah.
And they said, "We got called in for a meeting Friday morning, and that was it. We're closing our doors. You're done."
You told me about.
Yeah, and they walked out.
You're like, what?
They didn't even say we'll pay for the rest of the day. I mean, it was done. I was like, Lord have mercy. So they ended up, whoever was over their multifamily got them in such a bad bind. Yeah. They had to close immediately to avoid, lawyers and just losing the owners losing everything. They had to close immediately, and they were strong. They were really strong GC, but it put us in a situation where we had money tied up into all this material, tied up into this job, and who's going to pay it?
Right.
Where's it come from?
Right.
And it's very scary. I mean, because you just don't know. Right. Are they just going to say the hell with it? We're out of here. And luckily things worked out because the owner managed to team up with another GC that managed to pick up all the same subcontractors, and everybody worked as a team, and we managed to come out on top. But it was definitely very scary. But like what you're talking about in residential, and we're seeing it in the commercial side as well, COVID. That whole COVID thing messed up industry. I mean, worldwide. I mean, our whole country, everything that we get material-wise was just jacked.
Right.
Either the price went up or you couldn't get it.
Right.
And so we ended up having a lot of prices. We call them escalators. So like right now we're having concrete escalators. So I've had to do probably 2 every single week lately, where I have to put a change order together to say, this is the total amount of cubic yards of concrete that we had bid to do on your project. We have only done, let's say if it's 1,500 yards of concrete, we've only done 300 yards of concrete to date. Well, here's our backup. We just got hit with this $10 a yard escalator from our vendor. It's not money that we're making.
The cost of just the materials alone is gone up.
It just goes up. And and to tell you the truth, I don't have a whole lot of confidence that the vendors' prices are going up. I think that maybe they are a little bit, but I think their pockets, it's an opportunity for them to make money, and every concrete vendor out there is doing it. So they're able to do it. But it's nothing that we're making. We're getting hit with the charge, so then we have to back charge the owner. So then I submit this charge to the GC. Everything's done, the estimates are done, the bids are done, we're awarded the project, and then a month in, I'm like, I need another $60,000. Pay it, or we're walking. I mean, it's that bad.
And you've already invested. You've already taken out, like you said, this line of credit for all these materials thus far.
Yeah.
And the labor.
And luckily, we're typically in a better situation than the owners are, because when we submit this, we say, I actually send them an email prior, letting them know it's coming up within the next month. And then when that week, a week prior, so I know exactly what we've already done and what we have left. Because, roughly about a week, I have a good projection.
Right.
And then I will submit my change order. And with the email, I'll say, this it has a high urgency. Right. Sign it prior to our next pour is next Tuesday, the 23rd. Or right. we're off the job. Good luck. And it's not like we're being mean, but we have to cover ourselves.
It's business.
It's all it is. It's business. And the owners, they don't have a choice.
Yeah.
They don't have a choice. And okay, we'll go to a different vendor. Well, the truth is that when we bid this out 6 months in advance, we lock in those prices at that point.
Yeah.
So by the point that I hit them with an escalator, there's almost 100% chance. Let me rephrase that. There is 0% chance that they will be able to go out to another vendor and get a better price than that. Because at that point, they have already get hit by like 2 escalators, and their prices are already astronomical. I hit you with an escalator of at a total of $133 a yard. They'll go and it says $150.
That's crazy.
And I'll get backup from other vendors. I say, at this point, here's 2 more vendors. Here's their quotes. And they sign it immediately because they don't have a choice.
Right. They don't have a choice.
But after some of these private private owners, some of them just say, all right, we're done. And they walk off. They'll say, we'll wait. Maybe we'll go bankrupt. Or maybe we'll just hold it like it is for 6 months or a year and see if things get better. Some of it has gotten that bad.
Like wait for prices to drop.
Yeah, which is a good reason why we like to bid public work, bond work, because when they issue bonds, the city issues bonds. They may issue $350 million in bonds.
Right. So
that money's allocated.
Right. There's excess funds usually.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They call them contingencies, and they have contingencies of $1 million put back, knowing. Because most of these guys are very experienced.
Right.
They know that something's going to happen. Whether it be the price increases or the owner says, you know what, I don't like that. I want to go with this, and it's much more expensive. They do changes to the contract.
Are you dealing with all these kind of things, Cameron?
Yeah.
Is this... So, my next question, because I know you've been kind of just dealing with a lot, man, is... Are you stressed out, man?
Hell yeah.
Are you stressed out?
Last couple days
have
been better for sure.
I can tell they're better. Tell me though.
What all started?
You don't have to drag it out. Tell me. I'm curious. What's stressing you out, bro?
Well, it's not necessarily the workload. It was the way it all came about. So I think a year before I even came on with this company, I had a trip planned with my dad, and I went for like 8 days, and so I was like, I've done a good job here. I've had this trip planned well before. I let them know well ahead of time.
Sure, you did.
And I left. And while I was out there, I didn't have a whole lot of signal or anything. And I contacted them at least once a day to touch base with them. And I could tell something was off. They weren't really saying anything. He was very short off the phone. He didn't seem like himself. He was really a very upbeat, happy guy. And just the way he was answering the phone, I could tell something was off.
Right.
When I make it back, so I leave. When I leave, happy-go-lucky, everybody cutting up around the office to no fucking around. Like, this is not a happy place anymore. And
No.
and it was stressful. It was extremely stressful. But what made it worse is there was meetings and conversations and a bunch of stuff that I wasn't privy to, and my team... Nothing against them. I mean, they were under a lot of stress, but some of that stuff wasn't relayed to me properly. And so I was being caught with my pants down, like, hey, what's going on here? And like, I have no answers. Yeah. And I'm getting hit with this and that, and and it piled on so deep, so fast that it was for 2 or 3, probably 3 weeks. It was miserable.
Was there any ever communication on that a little bit? Like, hey, I know these were things you weren't able to be a part of initially. Some of these faults are not yours. Was there ever some of that, or
not really?
Not really.
And what sucks is good. Chris is actually very good. Especially as soon as I started, he was always good at, giving your props when it's due.
Right.
Right. Saying the right things when he needed to. He was very good at that. But you could tell that he was so stretched thin that he wasn't acting himself.
Sure.
He wasn't doing those things. He was even he's got a memory like nobody I've ever met.
Right.
And he would make mistakes that aren't that he typically would make. Mm-hmm. And that I would catch. Mm-hmm. And you could just tell that he was so stretched thin that it just wasn't functioning right.
Yeah.
So he was having problems. And then of course when your captain at the helm is like that, it sets a mood for the entire office. And then we just kind of went downhill there. I mean, I wouldn't say went downhill. It just got tough. It got really tough there for a little while.
But things are on the up and up again.
Yeah, I worked, extra hours and put in the extra time. It got one reason why I got extra difficult was, it got so tough at one point that I started to become flustered. Mm-hmm. And when you become flustered and and it's just being honest, you almost lose a little bit of confidence.
Right.
And then you got to take a step back and say, I got to reset my brain.
Yeah.
Let me go in there and take one task at a time. If I have to work 2 extra hours a day for 5 days to catch up, whatever. Mm-hmm. And that's what I had to do. But there was a time where I even sat with him and I'm like, dude, like, this isn't me. I'm flustered. Like I'm aggravated. But I've bounced back since then.
Good, man. You got this. I think that's some of that is just being in that type of environment and culture that you're in, which is a smaller business, and you're a big cog, right? When the big cog, well, even when a lot of these things weren't your fault, when a big cog when a machine doesn't have as many parts, right, and you're an important moving part, and that part's in something like 8 days, it has a bigger impact, right?
Oh yeah,
and so,
absolutely.
There's definitely consequences, and you need to be able to take vacation and things. So these are just the nature of things. It does suck though. I hate that it's like this thing that you're supposed to have to get away and to re-energize.
Made it work.
It's like you come back and you're worse.
No doubt. For the last couple of weeks, I'm like, I wish I would have never gone on the vacation.
Right. I hate that because you need these trips and these pauses, and you're not, we're not, living to work. We're working to live, right? And like you were going to live, right? And you've been working your butt off. So it's a shame that this much deserved and needed thing, which is a getaway, right? To go do something you actually love is and have some time with your dad, right? Was kind of contributed to this now coming back and things being hectic.
And it absolutely sucks. I will say that it was kind of an odd, wasn't ordinary situation. I mean, when I say we always like to say, I'm putting out fires. Like, hey man, what's going on, man? I'm just putting out fires.
Yeah, this was
it was a bonfire. Like it just all hit at one time.
Yeah.
That's all I can really say. It just piled on all in about 1 week. December was just my madhouse. And what was really sucked is one reason why I was looking forward to that time was typically the construction industry slows up around Christmas. It gets really slow, and then right after New Year's, it's just all hands on deck.
Yeah.
All hands on deck. And it didn't happen. It was fires all through December.
Yeah.
And then when the New Year came, all hands on deck in a bonfire. Like, it was just... And I remember telling the new guy, I said, dude, he's like, we're getting ready to go for the New Year's weekend, which we didn't get off, but we still had our typical weekend days. And I said, man, just get ready when we come back Monday. It's going to be a bitch.
Yeah.
And sure enough, dude, it was rough. It was real rough. Everybody wants, because we didn't slow down, but a lot of the other people, the other GCs and stuff, other trades, they did slow down. And not because they had to, but because, vacation and people go off, you can't get them on the phone. So just things kind of tend to slow down. But when they come back, it's like, okay, now we have to catch up. It's one of those industries where your work doesn't go away. It just piles up.
Right.
It's not like you come in and punch a clock and then when you punch out, it's, you're done. You're done flipping the patty.
Right.
It's not like that. It piles and it piles and it piles. To be a really good project manager, I mean, you're going to have to take phone calls after work.
Yeah.
You're going to have to answer emails here and there after work.
In this scenario, for sure.
It just is what it is.
All right. Well, we're not too far from wrapping it up, but I wanted to change gears again to something maybe a little more positive. So, you are a husband. You got a good, supportive wife.
Yes, I do.
That I know well and I'm friends with. And you're a father, man. A bit of a new father still.
I know. He's incredible. Sometimes hard to get away from.
Yeah. So then, I'm leading up to, let's change gears. Tell me some things you're loving about life, man, or some things that are bringing you joy, or things you're interested in, or let's get to the positive.
Yeah. Well, just since Grayson was born, enjoying the simple things has become much more noticeable.
Yeah.
Much more relevant.
Yeah.
Just.
Is it weird being a dad?
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole new. I mean, everybody always says, it's nothing like it. You don't know what it's like until you get in that situation, and it's absolutely true.
Yeah.
I mean, just like I came home, and again, I've had it rough lately, and that's part of my frustration is working hard and being stressed out, and then I come home late, and by that point he's at his grumpy stage, and he's sleepy, and it's for that time period, I feel like I was just missing the best parts of my family, and that really sucks. That made it worse. But the other day I came home and I just said, you know what? I've worked late, pretty much all week. I'm going home.
Yeah.
And so I get in the truck and I go home, and when I get there, the sun. It's another thing that sucks about this time of year is it gets dark earlier.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Feels like
It doesn't fit my personality well at all.
Right.
So I get home, and luckily there was some daylight left, and I just picked him up, and we went outside, and we were walking through the park, and just it's so amazing how simple life can be at that age.
Yeah.
He just wants to grab rocks and throw them.
Yeah.
You know, and it's such a beautiful thing to watch and do. And you know, I'd grab him and I grab his hand and I try to throw it farther for him, and he'd look at me, and he'd smile, and he'd laugh, and he'd think it was hilarious. And then I grab a rock and I throw it for he would throw it, and I grab the rock that he threw, and I said, "Watch this," and I chunk it. You know, I wouldn't even chunk it as far as I could, but I would. For him, it's just like, and he's so amazed, you know, and he's only about getting close to 14 months.
Yeah.
And you know, and
it's
that
crazy how fast though.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But it was just so things that are just so simple, you know, are more enjoyable now.
Yeah.
You know, it's because it's almost like I'm reliving those things through him.
Yeah. Well, that's something Jordan Peterson talks about. Something why we love, you know, kids and babies is because you're getting to live vicariously. Everything's a new experience again for them. Things that aren't funny are now funny again because it's their first, you know, and you get to experience that through.
I mean, I do the most stupidest random stuff with him, and it's so funny. Oh yeah, he absolutely loves it.
Like, I didn't think that'd be funny, and you're like, all right, now I'm kind of laughing about it.
Just stupid stuff. He's got like his toothbrush has got a little sucky thing that sucks to the counter.
Yeah, little suction cup.
Yeah, and like I'll take it while he's in the bathtub, and I'll like throw it like a dart and it'll hit the wall and go ding 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 ding.
Yeah.
And he thinks it's hilarious. He
funny.
loves it, man.
That's funny, man. I'm really happy for you, and you know, I'm so looking forward to being a dad one day too, and have such high standards. But it's really nice to get to see it through you first, and you know, it seems like you're gonna have a really great son, and I'm looking forward to him giving you a little hell though. That's gonna be fun.
Yeah, he definitely has the personality.
Yeah, you think he's gonna have that wild streak that you had?
I probably so.
Think so.
Part of it I'm looking forward to.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna ask, do you want him to? Or
yeah, but now that I've gone through what I've gone through, I think that you know, growing up with him and you know, making sure I have his respect. Yeah. But yet being honest with him, that maybe I'll be able to keep him out of some of the stuff that I got into, but yet still enjoy, like the thrill seeker's fun. I mean, like he's got a little roller coaster and at first I thought, man, that looks a little too dangerous for him as little as he is. But man, we put him on that thing and throw him down it, and he absolutely loves it. He's not afraid to go fast or spin or whatever. And
that's a big burden too, you know, to put that on you. That you know, he's going to go through hard times, but some of those things I don't know that you're necessarily gonna, you know, because you had pretty good parents. You know, I don't know that I would look at you and then look at your parents. And
I did, but
these things were their fault. You know?
No, not at all. I had great parents, but also think that my parents didn't have some of the experiences to help me with the things I was going through.
Okay, that's fair.
You get what I'm saying?
No, I get that.
And so, yes, I do wish, sometimes I wish, like, man, I wish my parents would have talked to me about this a little bit more, that. And then I realized, well, they didn't have the experience to do that.
Right.
You know, they didn't know.
Right.
But I do.
Right.
I may not have the experience of everything that he goes through.
Right.
But some of the stuff that we're really scared about, I think I got some of the experience.
That's fair. That's fair.
So and we get in the conversation with me and Caitlin here and there about that, and you know I always tell her the same thing. I'm like, well, babe, the difference is that I know.
Yeah.
Like first of all, I know this. I know the signs. I know what this looks like. You know, I can help him understand instead of just saying because I said so. Well, there's times for I said so, and there's times to sit down and say this is why I'm telling you this.
Yeah.
And get him to understand that I'm not just telling you this just because I feel like it.
Right.
You know, there may be a situation where it's like, look, you don't need to ask questions. Do it and do it now. Yeah. But there's times where it's like, okay, let's sit down. Let me explain to you why this is not a good idea or why this is a good idea.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think so, man. And that's complicated too. But it's definitely, you know, we need a good balance of that firmness in raising our kids and discipline. And I mean, I said something so funny the other day. We were talking about like, I think me, Taha, and Joe were talking about if we were gonna spank our kids. And I just said, it was just a joke, but I said, oh yeah, I can't wait to whoop my kid's ass. You know what I'm saying? Like, because there is a respect when you look back as an adult and the discipline that you were given, where you're like, I appreciate that now, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
And it's so hard to find, you know, and I think you and Caitlin have a beautiful balance. I think this is a great place to end it too, because I think Caitlin's got a great nurturing and maternal side.
Oh, absolutely.
And although you are very good in those areas too, I think you have a good balance of that adventurous, willing to, you know, you've got the metaphor of the mother who's there making sure that the child never falls per se, you know, to catch him to a degree for the major falls, and then you've got a dad also throwing him up into the air, you know what I'm saying? So he learns how to like adventure and trust and live, and you know, so you have these awesome balances, and you and Caitlin really, y'all seem to embody those things really well between the two of you and work together on it, whether it's in y'all's careers and finances as well as parenting. So I think he's gonna be a good kid, man. He is. But I do think you're right. I think he'll probably have your wild streak, and I think he's going to stress your wife out a little bit.
Probably. If I can help tame the bad sides of that,
yeah,
it's going to be fun. Because, I mean,
yeah,
being wild can be fun, you know?
You need to be wild. Man, we read, so I don't know if you've read it recently, but that Wild at Heart. Yeah, right? Where the author talks about, you know, what, especially these young boys, they want, you know, they want this innate, you know, feeling of adventure and being wild, and I think our society is like neutering, you know, these things out of us, and you know, you need to find a healthy balance. I also think these young guys aren't getting that type of like masculine initiation into being a man.
Absolutely.
You know, we're seeking, you know, I think young
go out, start some fires, sleep in the woods.
Right, you know, but you also need, you know, an adult to go, hey, you know, you're a man now. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have these responsibilities now. And I think like these music fests that I used to go to a lot, I think it's a lot of young people who are looking for that like community and initiation into the next step of life, because they're not getting that anymore. Like, you used to get that in like Boy Scouts or in like communities, whether it was moms who would get together with their daughters or dads who would get together with their sons. I don't think we're getting that to a degree, and so you have this very gray area of like, you're a kid, you're still kind of a kid, but you're an adult now too, but like you're still a kid, you know? And it's like, when did you stop becoming a kid and become adult? Like, there's never this like line in the sand that there used to be, whether it was, you know, in Native American tribes or old Christian tribes or, you know, all these other cultures, right? There's always been this kind of like...
And back in the day, they used to say, all right, son, you're old, get out of the house.
Right. And it was like, you know now.
Now it's like, all right,
you're
son,
an adult now.
There's a spot in the basement for as long as you want it.
Dude, I mean, I have friends in their late 20s.
I mean, some people would see that as mean, but it's not mean. It's like, hey, you know, I'm trying to teach you to handle your shit.
Yeah.
You know? And my dad was he was always there. It still is there for me. But there are times where I can tell that he could take care of this for me.
Right.
But he's not.
No, he shouldn't. He should let you do it.
Right.
Yeah. Man, you got really blessed in that aspect, man. You had a solid dad growing up. Not that your mom wasn't great too.
He bailed me out a lot of stuff too, though.
You Mr. Mike always walked. You know, I still call him Mr. Mike. You know, I'm 30-something years old, but you know, he always had this air about him that just was like this. It was like this calm ocean, man. You know what I'm saying? It was so, you know, it was.
He freaked me out sometimes, man. Like, I would be involved in something, and
he'd just know it.
Yeah.
I remember you telling me stuff like this.
Man.
Yeah. We're gonna have to have a podcast, a whole nother episode, because we gotta wrap it up soon. And but you know, I think we're gonna talk about your dad like the whole time, or maybe when we'll have your dad on. That'd be cool too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, I'm really excited to see where life is going to take you in the next few years. You've got an awesome family right now, and I think you're really primed in a great position to do a lot of cool things. And you're really cultivating some unique, cool things in your life, and your wife's life, and your family's life, and all of that. So, really blessed to have you as a friend, man. And I definitely look back, and I'm really grateful for all the experiences. And,
Me too.
It was a wild ride, bro.
Me too. Yeah, sometimes, even when times get kind of rough, I always think back to some of the stuff. So just simple stuff that we do, man.
It's crazy because you don't meet a lot of people who've been friends as long as we've been friends, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
I remember, God, how many years? I can't even remember how many years. 20 years ago, we'd be sitting in your living room playing those old video games, or maybe we'd be out playing in the tree house. And I mean, imagination, Lord Jesus Christ. Now it looks stupid when you think back at it, but I mean, we had
adventures, full-fledged adventures. Man.
Yeah, I mean, we'd be like, adventures, or we'd be freaking superheroes.
Yeah.
And damn it, you could see the lightning come out of your fingertips.
Dude, you know it, man. You know it. I miss the firecracker wars too. Those were
Oh
fun.
my God.
Those were really fun.
Surprising of us got really hurt doing that.
I did blow my finger one time.
Nowadays, it's like somebody will shoot like the little Roman candles. I'm like, and they're all freaking out and everything. I'm like, man, we used to shoot like big old bottle rockets at each other.
I'll never forget. I think we'll end it at this because this is a great
hand
story.
Grenades.
This is a great story. We were wrapping up a firecracker war, and y'all were all hanging out by the fire, right?
I think I know what you're talking about.
And so we would we had all these different we would use the water dynamite, primary,
like little black
ammunition.
cats. Not a big thing.
You'd have the bottle rockets as your mid tier, and then your Roman candles is like your
the ones that exploded.
The boom towns.
Yeah,
remember those?
Those exploded.
They're like, bah,
yeah.
Right. So
because you could be really accurate with those.
In some year, we eventually started integrating those artillery shells, right? That you drop down the tube, bah, like you see at fireworks shows, right?
Yeah.
But we were throwing those at each other.
I remember the first time I threw one at you.
Bro.
The very first time.
I don't know if this was the first time, but this was a time. And so I gave it away, but so we've ended the fight. The fight's pretty much over. It's very dark. Everyone's kind of hanging out.
Sitting around the fire.
And I'm deep off doing my sneak thing.
Yep.
And I hear y'all like, where's Collin? Where's Collin? And I already know. I'm like, oh, it's time, motherfuckers. I'm coming for y'all.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I'm like military crawling. Deep in the grass in the back acreage, right? And y'all don't have a clue where I'm at, bro. This is one of those weird, this is like some of that magic your dad has that rubs off on you where you just get lucky, right? And I'll never forget, I don't know what y'all are doing. I can't really see. Y'all are just silhouettes in the distance at this fire. And I don't remember what you said. You said something clever, though, like, he's out there somewhere or something, right? And you go to do something. And then you just, you just throw this thing. And I'm just like, haven't really taken it into consideration. I'm just crawling. I'm going to scare him. I'm going to get him. I've got some fireworks. And right in front of my freaking head, dude, this artillery shell lit. Just thump, thump, thump. And just like, holy, shit my pants.
I mean, it's just woods and darkness, bro. All around us.
Like, you damn near hit me in the head. And I mean, you must have shortened the fuse or something, dude.
Mostly, yeah.
Because they have long fuses.
Yeah,
this one's about to go off. And I mean, I have just enough time to get off the ground, and I'm hightailing it, bro. I'm full, need a chin, bro. Need a chin. I'm running for my damn life.
Man, I'm telling you,
and this bitch goes off. I must have looked like, Mario.
No. I'm telling you, I can remember this so vividly. And yes, from my point of view, I threw it, because I did shorten the fuse.
Did you little bastard?
Yeah, I'd always break them so I would know exactly when they would go off. And I would hold them right as soon as they get to the end, and then I'd throw them. And I remember I threw it, and it just explodes. And, here's the explosion. And then here's Collin. Because it's completely dark. And this moon is not out, and you see a few stars. And it just lights up everything. And then here you are need a chin. Here's the explosion. Here's Collin. It's just like the explosion's growing, and you're just...
All them summer workouts kicking in, bro. High knees, baby.
It was great, man. Because I remember just pitch black. I couldn't see. I want to say I may have because I was into hunting and I was in the military thing too, ghillie suit and all that. And I could have sworn I heard like a twig break or something small, and I just threw it that direction, and there just couldn't see anything. And the next thing I see, you just go. Oh man, it was great.
That's funny.
Good shit.
That's a good one, man. That's a good one. Well, I think we're almost out of time, so I think I'm gonna end it there, man. That was a good one, brother.
Yeah.
Hey, man.
Yeah, we got about 50 more of those.
Oh, dude, you're gonna be a recurring guest, so with your permission, I'll go and let them know you're coming back on, and this is obviously a work in
progress.
And I'm gonna keep trying to tweak things up. I've got another room I think I'm gonna try out with a different layout. See if y'all prefer that more. But yeah, man, thank you for coming on. I love you, brother. Been friends for
absolutely, man. I love you too.
Over a decade, bro.
No.
Over a decade. So, What do they say? I think they say if you statistically are friends for longer than like 10 years, it's like that's it. You're just friends for
Yeah,
so,
yeah. I don't think I have any friends that are anywhere near that.
No getting rid of us at this point, man.
Yeah.
But
I can't think of anybody I've been friends with longer than that.
I do.
Or anywhere close to that, really.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a few that we're still kind of in touch with. You know, like I love TJ to death. Me and him are still kind of cool, but no one stuck together like we did. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, I wish you the best. Thank you for coming on, and any endeavors you tackle moving forward. If there's anything, if someone gives you a recommendation or whatever, right? I would love to promote it here for you. So come back on, and anything you need, I'm here for it. And yeah, man, good talk.
Absolutely, I'll be back.
Come back on, man.
All right.
Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate y'all tuning in. Again, Ongodd Podcast with your host, Collin Steele. This was Cameron Clark, one of my best friends and longest time friend. He's in the construction world, and he definitely has a lot of other skills. So, any questions for him, feel free to drop in the comments. And again, man, work in progress. I'm going to tweak this as we move forward. And feel free to drop comments, give us critiques. If anything that came up was interesting, feel free to let me know. And I'm going to continue to kind of hone this podcast into whatever is seeming the most appealing or what you feel like is adding value. If you really liked hearing some of the stories and you want a podcast of maybe just straight wild and crazy ass stories, we didn't even, dude, like stuff I'm gonna have to be, we're gonna have to edit, we're gonna have to edit because I don't even know that we can say.
No shame in my game.
Okay, all right, well,
I'd tell you some stuff.
I think we can make it work. So we'll, let us know what you're thinking, guys. And again, love y'all and stay safe. And we'll definitely catch y'all next time. Thanks, guys. Bye.